Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and we're here to talk to you about the most recent episode of Harley Quinn. It was called Metamorphosis. As it starts, we learned that Nightwing is deceased, which I didn't think was the case. When he fell out of the tree at the end of last week's episode, I thought he was just unconscious. But apparently, he has
ceased to be.
And so the episode starts with his funeral, at which Harley is eulogizing him. And it was kind of funny because his coffin features a bust of his butt sticking up in the air, which is really bizarre. But anyway, all the DC heroes are there: Aquaman, Flash, Superman, Batwoman, Wonder Woman, all those people. And Harley invites Batgirl up to say a few words, but all she says is, heroes are just like everyone else, and sometimes they die. Just then, though, seeking attention, Toyman blows up a soup truck that had been catering the funeral. And as Flash goes into action to take out the toy soldiers that he deployed to shoot everyone, Toyman runs off. But it was great to see Flash in action. Harley, Robin, and Batgirl then decide to break up the Bat family because apparently the three of them together are creating like a big target. So much so that even the third-tier villains are after them now that Nightwing's dead and Batman's gone. We then hear from Alfred, who's there at the funeral. Apparently, he's trying to make a whole lot of money selling his own brand of white wine so that once he's rich, he can then commit a crime and go to rich people prison to see Bruce. Ivy finds out that her PR team wrote a condolence message about Nightwing's death for her and posted it without telling her, and she's not happy about it. Joker, meanwhile, tells his family that he's going back to being a villain, and they seem to be happy with it. Harley goes back to live with Ivy, but falls asleep waiting for her, only to find out after waking up that she sleepwalked and messed up the place, as well as that when Ivy came in to change her blazer, she didn't even know Harley was there. At the Legion of Doom, Captain Cold asks Nora if she thinks that Ivy put a hit out on Dick, and she coyly and seductively asks him if he's trying to get top secret information out of her, which again is funny because, you know, she was Mr. Freeze's wife, and so naturally she's trying to get with the next Cold villain. Anyway, after mistaking the fountain around Ivy's statue at the Legion of Doom for a childcare program, King Shark retrieves his babies and then seeks parenting advice from security guard Gordon. When Ivy confronts her PR team and says that she's not going to go along with the way they want her to do things, they put up an unflattering post or two about her, and she decides that the time has come to get rid of them. Batgirl tells Harley that she's convinced that Ivy had Nightwing killed, and Ivy turns to her proteges to help her take out her PR team. Ivy tells her team that she's decided to go along with what they want, which is to host a Little Miss Ivy contest, but of course, it's a ruse. Gordon and Shark King go about doing some things with Shark King's kids as a way of teaching Shark King how to be a good dad. While investigating the murder of Nightwing, Harley and Barbara go to the Legion of Doom and find some of the new members outside, whacking at Nightwing in piñata form, held aloft by Sinestro. They follow Nightwing's tracking device and find it on Gordon, who's using it to help get the baby sharks to fall asleep. But now that it's covered in slobber, they can't test it for forensics, so Barbara goes on the warpath to try to find out if Ivy had anything to do with Nightwing's death by beating her up to get her to confess. Harley, meanwhile, goes to double check with Ivy as to whether or not she had Nightwing killed, after subduing Barbara, leaving her at the bar. Ivy goes off to judge the Little Miss Poison Ivy contest, but instead she tanks it by poo-pooing the whole affair and insulting all the contestants before letting the audience in attendance know that there are Poison Ivy dolls under each seat, but they're not ready yet because they all have very realistic buttholes. Her PR team is not happy about all of this, and they all merge into one giant being to confront her. Meanwhile, Barbara is fighting Toyman in the Legion of Doom at a related Legion function, during which Reverse Flash takes a bullet somehow. Ivy then introduces her three proteges as the Natural Disasters, and one of them brings her statue to life to fight the giant PR being. Her other protege contacts the Red and sends the baby sharks flying into the mouth of the giant PR guy, at which point they proceed to eat him alive from the inside. After a few minutes, this ends up causing him to explode. This delights the little Poison Ivy contestants, even though they end up covered in blood and guts, which in turn delights Ivy. Joker then shows up and announces that he killed Nightwing, causing Barbara to run off, as Ivy and her cohorts seem to not even care. But just before the episode ends, Harley seems to see another version of herself across the room, like a doppelganger. and is quite surprised at that. And that's where the episode ends. So I'm not sure what that's about, but we're going to find out more next week. For now, I'll just say that I actually like this episode quite a bit more than the last few. I thought it had a little bit more meat to it. And, that was in the form of the funeral for Nightwing. And then, the three of them deciding that they need to split up and tracking Nightwing's beeper or his tracking device or whatever, and finding it at the Legion. And Joker declaring that he's going back to crime and being the one who killed Nightwing. I thought that that was all more substantive than what's been happening in the last few episodes. And of course, as usual, it's funny because there's a lot of sight gags. Like at one point during the eulogy, Harley says, thank you all for coming, even though that, means that you have a big target on your back for being this close to the Bat family. And Flash kind of goes whoop, and like sidesteps a little further away from Harley. It was kind of funny. Seeing all the other heroes was really great, even though it's very brief. And I think it sets up something cool for next week with Harley's double. The things that I think are missing from this, season so far, really and truly, is Clayface. We did have him for one whole episode. He was featured, but he's very funny, and there wasn't a lot of him so far this season. Same thing for Bane. He's very funny, but he's only showed up briefly. And I miss having the mental guy. I forget what his name is. The little short guy with the mental abilities. He was very funny as well. And he's not been in this season or last season that I recall. But he was in the first two seasons. He was very funny. So they could bring him back, and it would delight me quite a bit. But as I said, I think this episode was the strongest one so far, and I'm interested to see where it goes next week. And is Nightwing actually dead? Like, it seems it, but I can't believe they did that. Like, is he gonna show up and just say, "Oh, I was really, really knocked out and not dead, and I slowed my metabolism, or I took a toxin that mimics death or something"? Is he actually dead? That's kind of weird. I can't believe it, but we'll see, I guess. There are 4 more episodes left, so we're well past the halfway point at this point. But that's really it. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back to review the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.